On this episode of iFilmmaker, we are going live to answer your questions about lighting, audio, and external recorders. Welcome to another episode of iFilmmaker. My name is Ariel Martinez, and today we don't have Mr. McCoy with us. He is currently traveling, and so we're gonna have to do this episode without him. And however, so I decided to go ahead and do a live Q&A with you guys. I think it's really good and important that we interact and we get your questions answered and even some follow-up questions. And that's the point of doing it live, so that if you have a follow-up question perhaps to something that I just said, you can go ahead and ask me whatever it is that you want. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do now, I'm not gonna spend too much time talking beforehand. I doubt this is gonna be a very long episode. So we're gonna go ahead and go live right now on Instagram. And some of you have already gone ahead and sent me some initial questions via direct message. So I went on Instagram and I told people to join me live today at 1 p.m. which is EST, Eastern Standard Time, and we're gonna do a live Q&A. Some of you guys went ahead and send me some questions off the bat. So while we have people join us live on Instagram, which you can also do if you follow me on Instagram at arielmartinez.tv, we're definitely gonna be doing more frequent live Q&A sessions. I think it's important that we, get your questions answered, as I mentioned a second ago, and we go ahead and answer some of your questions. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the first couple of questions that I received via direct message on Instagram. The first two questions are very similar to each other. The first one is, can you recommend me any books on lighting? And a follow-up question that I received on that, not a follow-up question, I'm sorry. Looks like my iPad is freezing on me here. So the first question is, can you recommend me any books on lighting? So let's go ahead with lighting first. I learned most of my lighting. I haven't read any books on lighting. I'm actually, I'm admitting right now that I'm actually reading my first filmmaking book, which is called Documentary Storytelling. But when it comes to lighting, it's pretty much everything I've learned is on YouTube, and more specifically, on one of my favorite shows on YouTube is actually called Film Riot. I'm sure most of you are aware of that. Are aware of, heard of the show called Film Riot. They do a lot of stuff that I don't use actually, because they're more narrative based, but a lot of stuff that they do actually pertains to me as well, because they do some interview lighting, they do different kinds of scenarios, or and what I try to understand more than anything when it comes to grabbing what they tell me and grabbing what they're actually trying to teach is more the understanding behind the reasoning for whatever lighting technique they use for the camera movement and so on and so forth. So I try to grab the concept or the understanding of what it is that they're trying to teach me in terms of lighting. Why do you put the key light and then the fill light and then the back light, or why do you put some sort of accent lighting or practical lighting or some lighting that's already in the shot. Understanding that and then using it to your advantage based on the type of filmmaking that you do is very, very important. Just because they use it a certain way doesn't mean that you have to use it that exact same way. That's why it's important that you understand why they're using it, how it's used, and how other filmmakers have actually also used it as well. And that's what I try to do. And so when I go on Film Riot, and and it's not only Film Riot, it's a bunch of other YouTube channels that actually that teach lighting and teach filmmaking in general. I think it's really important that you just basically learn and absorb everything that they have to offer in those channels. I think that they do a fantastic job of, at least YouTube in general has a fantastic scenario in which they teach a lot of that stuff. There's a lot of content out there that you are to learn. So finally, my the Instagram on my iPad finally came back. And so the next question, I said that it was very similar, asking me, are there any books or resources that you can recommend? And personally, do you think film school is worth it? Now, as for the first question, filmmaking books that I recommend, again, as I mentioned, I'm reading the very first one, and it's called Documentary Storytelling. This right here has been amazing. I've the hardest part for me is putting this book down. And for those of you that are not watching, that are just listening to this on iTunes or SoundCloud, I'm holding up a book that I recently acquired. It's called Documentary Storytelling, and it has been amazing. I have not been able to put this book down, and it's really hard to find time to read it. But quite honestly, like I have been finding myself in every, as soon as I get some free time to be able to do some reading, I take advantage of it and I just read nonstop. I actually posted recently that I've actually ran out of my highlighter because I was making notes. And the reason why I recommend getting a hard copy because I'm highlighting a lot. I'm writing a lot of notes. Normally I'm usually very techie and I'll get my books on Amazon or whatnot just to read it, ebooks and whatnot. But it's really good to make notes about what you're reading, write things down that you want to remember, what it means to you, the things that you just learned. And it's always good to have that with you. So by the time I'm done with this book, I can just skim over it and just remember different things that I've learned. So highly recommend it. Documentary Storytelling. This is actually the fourth edition from this author. This is the fourth edition that she has released. I'm pretty sure it's the most recent one. That's from what I understand. They keep adding more stuff to this book as her career continues, from the author, which is Sheila Curran Bernard. She is the author, also a documentary documentarian. She has been in the business and industry for a very long time, so I highly recommend this book. In terms of, is film school worth it? I can't say if it's worth it or not because I haven't experienced it myself, but I think it's a very important tool to have when, I guess, starting your career. There have been times where, people have said it's definitely worth it. You learn a lot, but then people have also made arguments on for the opposing argument as well, saying that, you don't really need it. And in my opinion, I don't think that not going to film school should stop you from starting your career. If you don't have the money to do it, then I don't think that should ever stop you. I think you should start your career. I think you should start just shooting what you want to shoot, learn how to shoot it, and then learning as you go. There's ways to do it. I've done it, and my way has been through YouTube and so on and so forth. So I think it's important that we remember that don't look at film school as, if you can't do it, then all is lost. That's simply not the case. It's really, if you're able to do it, if you're able to afford it, and you have the means, and you really want to do that, I actually recommend that you do it. But if you can't, then I don't think it's a big deal. So let's go ahead and answer some live questions here. One question here I have is, how important are angles? Camera angles to me is very important, especially when doing interviews. Like if you're doing an interview and your camera angle is, I've seen interviews where the camera angle, my preferred method of angling my camera for specific interviews, the more general standard for me is right at eye level, and then maybe 1 or 2 inches higher. So as my camera is further away, I'm going a little bit higher than my eye line for my subject, and that's pretty much where I put it. Because if you're right at eye level, that means you're getting a lot of the unflattering features of the face, basically. And sometimes people that are kind of slightly overweight, they might have some extra baggage down here, and you really don't want to get that unflattering features of aspects of their face. And so I tend to go just a little bit above, by a couple inches, 2 or 3 inches at most, above the eye line. Also depends on how far the camera is away. So I don't have a mathematical equation distance to height ratio, but you basically want to do that by sight. So normally, basically, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're basically where my camera is right now is probably a typical height of where I would have my camera angle, maybe a little bit lower, because it's actually very close to me. But that's pretty much it. That's pretty much where I would put it. But that is for interviewing. So camera angles in terms of any other aspect, like just again understand what camera angles do for your shot. A low camera angle looking at your subject nice and tall from the bottom basically gives them that dominance feel, that look that they're on top of the world, and that's the feeling if that's what you're trying to tell with your story. And not all the time, also music does that as well. And a high camera angle looking down at your subject also gives them the opposite appeal. It basically shows them that they have, the world is on their shoulders right now. They're carrying a lot of baggage. They're, a bird's eye view looking down you're looking down on the subject that is probably down on his luck right now, and it just gives a different story. So understanding the reasoning behind these camera angles is very important to basically understanding how to use them and how important it is. All right, so here we go. We have another question here from Johnny saying, what do you think about recording audio on weddings? I assume he put weddings from the church speaker. I highly recommend you don't do that. If her audio in weddings is crucial. And audio in any video is crucial, and we've said this before many times. Audio in weddings is audio in general is very crucial. Audio is 50% of your video, and as I mentioned in last episode, you can forgive bad video with good audio, but you cannot forgive bad audio with good video. So this is something that a rule of thumb that you should definitely go with. Don't ever skimp on your audio. If you can get better audio, all right, so let me put it this way. If that's the only way that you can get good audio, if that's the only way that you can grab the audio, if you don't have any other option, then yeah, you don't have a choice but to do that. But always go for the best audio possible. That's always going to take your video to the next level. Grabbing audio from the speakers of an event, let's say a wedding or any other event, it's good. It's okay, but it's never going to beat grabbing audio from the source. So whether it's putting a lav on the bride or groom or both, or, my preferred method if it's available, because oftentimes when, oftentimes when there is a ceremony going on, there's always a microphone being moved around by whoever's emceeing the ceremony or the event or whatever it is. There should always be a microphone, and when there's a microphone, there's always a mixer. There's always someone controlling that mixer or DJ that's controlling all the audio. So you want to do that. You want to make sure that you go ahead and grab the audio from there. I recommend you grab that at the source. And what I would do is, if you have a recorder like the Zoom H4n, H4n Pro, Zoom H6, like I have, or a Tascam or any other audio recorder, what you want to do is take that recorder to the DJ, to whoever's handling the mixer, and go ahead and plug that in. Make sure you're getting that audio directly from the source. And that's what I highly recommend you guys do. Once you plug that in, you're good to go. And obviously you put your headphones on, make sure that the audio is coming in clean, that you're not peaking and you're not too low. So you want to make sure that you're grabbing that crisp audio, and then in post production, you're all you got to do is sync it up, and you have some good clean audio. So yeah, if grabbing audio from the speakers, and you know what, sometimes the actual speaker has its own audio output, so you can go ahead and grab that and grab that from the source there if that's your only option. So there's that. All right, so next question here says, hi, I want to start a media company, but I only have the money to buy my startup gear. My question is, how can I get funding for my company? Please help. All right. So, I mean, you're in the same situation as everybody is, as everyone else is or was. And that's I was in that same situation as well. Just get the necessary gear. What I would say is get the necessary gear that you need, and start shooting videos. I mean, you don't really need, like, I don't see any other aspects of your company that you need, except for, like, I guess the small fee for registering your company with your particular state. But I don't see anywhere else where you would have to invest to start your company. I think you should just make sure that you have your equipment and just start making videos as much as possible. When I started, again, I just started making videos for free for clients, simply for the sole purpose of building my portfolio. And I just needed to get that done so that I have something to show more potential clients, to let them know how I work. This is the work that I do. If you're interested, then let's do business. But other than that, this my recommendations is basically use the money, get the gear that you need. Make sure that you're not. I mean, if you're starting off, let's say with $5,000, don't go and buy a $4,500 camera and then leave yourself $500 for everything else. Don't do that. That's not smart. Definitely, you want to separate your money. You want to separate your startup money evenly and whatnot. So I recommend you do that, and hopefully, good luck with your business, and just keep shooting, keep learning. Don't stop learning. Keep practicing. One thing that I did a lot, I don't have much time to do that now, but I still do it today, is practice what you've been learning. When you learn something new on, let's say, YouTube, which I did so many times when I was starting off, I learned something new and I would practice it. I had a lot of time in my hands because I didn't have too much work starting off. So I just practiced and shot and did a lot of that stuff. Actually, just 2 days ago, I recently found out that the FS5 could actually output 120 frames per second in 2K continuously. And I actually didn't know that feature for some reason. I guess that slipped through my head. So once I figured out how to do it through my camera in the Odyssey, I actually went out for a couple of hours and started shooting, using it a lot. I was actually shooting a bunch of ducks, and I was testing out that feature, see how good it is. So it's a really, really important tool to be able to practice everything that you're learning, because it's only then through hands-on experience that you're going to learn, and you can troubleshoot everything that you're learning. We're going to have to take a quick pause here real quick, because I'm actually recording on my FS5, my A6300, and I think it's actually getting borderline to heating up. So, and I'm not even shooting 4K. I'm not even sure why that's happening. So hold on a sec. I think that it's going to heat up no matter what. So anyways, let's go to the next question before my camera turns off. Next question is, I'm working on a short film. Should I shoot my film in black and white because I'm not good in lighting? I don't know how I feel about that. I would not. I would take the route of learning lighting. Learn the lighting that you're going for. Go online, see other people do it. Try to learn that lighting. I would never. I don't know. I don't think I would ever put that. Limit my film and my creativity because I don't know a specific aspect of the industry. Like, you should definitely try and learn that. This should be your opportunity to practice and learn. Even if you fail, let's say the outcome is not good, I would always try to go for that. Anyways, there have been times, and I don't know what you mean, shoot in black and white, because you could always shoot regular and just turn it black and white in post. And I have definitely done that when I see that my lighting sucked, and that has actually happened to me not that long ago, where I just really failed because I was just using completely different cameras, and the exposure on some of them were okay. The exposure on others were just horrible. There were completely different cameras across. There were like 2 Canons, 1 Sony, and a Red Epic Dragon, and it was really, really bad. So at the end, if I wanted to keep all 4 shots that I was using, what I had to do was, I had to go black and white and purposely add grain to some of the shots so that it can match the horrible grain of the others. So it was just really bad. But I wouldn't shoot black and white. I would turn it black and white in post. And I that's what I would recommend that you do. But always try to learn. Always try to learn your craft. Try to master your craft. Practice your craft. This is what you should always be doing all the time. The zoom is exactly what I do. Oh, okay, yeah. So if you're talking about the wedding, what I mentioned before about putting the zoom on the mixer, and getting that audio directly, then yes, that is a good job. Continue doing that. That is the best thing I think you can do. In addition, if you want to sometimes I'm actually have a wedding that is coming up, and what I plan to do is put a lav on the groom, so that not only do I get everything he says while he's up there, which I'm going to get on the mixer anyways, I kind of want to get him mingling around with some of the guests of the wedding and get that good audio from him and from his bride and whatnot. So that's actually another option as well. Have you ever used the Atomos Ninja Blade monitor / recorder? If so, how do you like it? Now, I've never used the Atomos recorders. I think they're great. I think they have really, really good specs. I love my Odyssey 7Q Plus. I would not change it for that. But from what I understand is, if you're using the HDMI input, what I really don't like about that monitor is that the HDMI input is on the side. That causes a big ergonomic situation there where it's kind of awkward. I like the placement of my Odyssey in terms of I use the SDI, which is right in the bottom, so it naturally hangs down as it's supposed to, as opposed to coming in from the side, which then you have cable coming out, and it's just a little bit awkward. But that's just a small feature that that doesn't call to my attention anyways. I'm very, very happy with my Odyssey 7Q Plus. I get everything that I need, shooting 4K, ProRes, RAW if I need it, continuously up to 60p, continuously at 2K, 120 frames per second, and I'm very, very happy with that. So, but I have heard good things about the Odyssey 7Q Plus. I'm sorry, about the Atomos recorders, the Ninja Blade monitor, and the Flame and Inferno. All these good monitors from Atomos. They're coming out with some really, really good stuff. But Odyssey for me is where it's at. Maybe in the future, if I end up getting maybe a GH5 or whatnot, maybe I'll consider those monitors for that as well. What is the best lighting equipment brand? I haven't used them all, so I really can't tell you what's the best. But what I can tell you is that there's some good stuff out there. Some that are quite expensive, some that are more affordable. What I'm actually looking at now, what I'm considering is getting the Quasar LED tubes that they have. They look very compelling. They're used by some really, really good filmmakers, some prominent ones that I follow, and they swear by it. They really like it. Because what I'm looking for is more convenience. I do travel a lot, so I need something that I can take more efficiently. I love my Aperture Amaran LED panels that I'm actually currently using to light up my room right now real quick. But I really, the thing with these lights is that they're very plasticky. They're very plasticky, and I feel like I've already had an issue with one of them. That Amaran, that Aperture has already rectified. They took my my panel, my LED panel, and they fixed it. They sent it back. Actually, not fixed it. They just sent me a new one. So they helped me out with that as well. And so I that was an issue. I fixed it, but they're just not reliable for me, and they take forever to charge. They require both batteries to be in the unit at the same time. They are not hot swappable. So there's just minor things there. It's actually very inconvenient that I have to unravel the charging cable for each unit, and I think what I would need to have is a separate charger for these Sony LP batteries that they come with. It's like they're generic brands, but I'm liking what I see from Drugcast. Drugcast has been putting out some really good products. They have a really good line of LED panels. I like Kino lights as well. Kino gives you that nice soft lighting, but the thing with Kinos for me is that they're almost unmanageable as a single shooter production. I do everything myself, so I need something that's more convenient to move around on set and get around like that. So it's really hard for me to say what is the best lighting. Like, you really can't answer that. What I do recommend is that when you are looking for lighting, I would recommend that you look for lighting that has a CRI value of 95 or higher. So that's what you want to go for. It gives you the most natural, it gives you a very good natural lighting. Accurate colors really is what you're getting with the CRI of 95 or higher. You want to make sure that you get that. So that you get good, you're not getting greens or magentas into your shots, into your colors as well. So next question, what's your opinion on the camera upgrade from the Lumix G7? I haven't used the Lumix G7. I do like Panasonic's Lumix cameras. They're really, really nice. I mean, the only thing I could say is go with the GH4 or the GH5. Either cameras are really, really good. I'm not, those cameras are not for me. The cameras are not for me. However, I will say that I have used a GH4. They're really, really nice. The reason why they're not for me is because I need a bigger sensor than Micro Four Thirds. Micro Four Thirds is a very, very small sensor. I need more space in that because as documentary filmmaking, I don't know what kind of space that I find myself in, and I might need a wider range, a wider shot to get, and the camera might not be it for me. In addition to that, the low light performance really suffers because of that very small sensor. So that's basically the main reason why I've stayed away from the Panasonic DSLRs or mirrorless cameras, the GH4, the GH5. I've stayed away from getting it myself, even though the GH5 it looks gorgeous, the image and all that stuff, but it looks good. But I mean, it's just not workable for my current situation. So I'm gonna go ahead and end it there. This was a pretty cool first Q&A that we did live. Hopefully you guys will join me on the next one, and we'll have Mr. McCoy back on the next Q&A. And so until next time, I will catch you guys. And also, let me just remind you that you can go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is iFilmmaker as well. We have a Facebook at iFilmmaker Podcast. On Instagram, it's the same thing, at iFilmmaker Podcast. And for the next Q&A, it is going to be on my Instagram, going live straight from my Instagram. You can follow me there at arielmartinez.tv, which also happens to be my domain. But anyways, until next time, I'm glad you guys were able to join us, and we'll keep this one relatively short. So we'll see you on the next one. Peace.